In this lesson, we're going to be looking at learning the notes on the E and A strings. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, really, by knowing the notes in these two strings, we know where we can play power chords, scales, arpeggios, bar chords, that type of thing. It's a way of orientating ourselves on the neck, rather than just kind of randomly kind of playing about until you can hear the note that you're trying to play. Now, it doesn't matter what instrument you play, what we tend to do is use letters to denote pitches. And the letters that we use are between A and G in the alphabet. So we use letter A, B, C, D, E, F, and then G. So that's all the letters that we use. Other kind of countries use different letters. You may have a different way of, denoting it in other kind of cultures, but that's the kind of predominant music system that's used around the world. Now, there's actually gaps in between each of these notes. Now, if you think about a piano keyboard, the letters A to G are the white keys on a piano, but as you know, you have all the black keys in between as well. Now, if you were to play all them together, you would be actually playing something called the chromatic scale, which sounds a big kind of fancy sounding thing. But really what that means is all the 12 notes that we use in our music system. Now the guitar, as you can see, it goes up to 12 frets. So you can see there's a connection there. That's because the guitar is a chromatic instrument. We can play all the notes that we use in our music system, and some in between because we can do string bends and things. But what I want to concentrate on in this part of the lesson is looking at the natural notes. So that's just the A to G, okay? So what we're going to do is start with the open A string. It's easier because it's alphabetical. So that's our A string there. So that's an open A. Now the next note is B. Now B is 2 frets away from A. So it's on the 2nd fret of that A string there. 2 frets, or sometimes you may think of it as a whole tone or 2 semitones. So the guitar is laid out in semitones, so each fret you move up a semitone, or sometimes people call it a half tone. So if you're moving up 2 frets, you have a whole tone or a full step. There's different terminology for it. But B is essentially a tone away from that open A string. So it's B there at the 2nd fret. Next note is C. It's right next door to B. So this is quite an important thing to remember. B and C are right next door to each other there. So they're just a semitone apart. The next note is D, which is here at the 5th fret. Okay, so that's a tone away from C. Next note after that is E. Now that's a tone away from D here. Okay, the next note is F, which is there at the 8th fret. It's right next to E. It's a semitone away. Now the interesting thing about B and C and E and F being right next to each other, if you look at a piano keyboard, that's your pair of keys that are right next to each other when you look at the white keys. That's your B and C and E and F. So that's the important thing to always remember, that they're just a fret apart, each of them. B and C and E and F. Now after F, we've got our last note, which is G. Now that's 2 frets or a tone away from the F there. And then if I go yet another 2 frets or tone, I get to the 12th fret here and I get to another A. This A here is actually double the frequency of that A. Think about the kind of physics of the string. What I've done is I've halved the length of the string, and therefore I've doubled the kind of frequency. But that's why the 12th fret is a kind of magical midpoint, and really everything would start all over again. Okay, so that's your A at the 12th fret there. So if I go through it slowly again,